Hear the whispers from within, balance to restore, ailings to relieve. Feel the nature keeping us, nature healing us, flowers, leaves, and roots within. Hear the mind calming you, soothing you, love and kindness inside out. Let the herbs from middle world heal. Welcome wellness, welcome wellness. It's revealed herbs, middle world herbs.
Hello and welcome to Middle World Herbs Natural Wellbeing Series, where we talk about restoring and maintaining your health in safe and natural ways while incorporating both the physical and the emotional sides of healing. We go live twice a week on Wednesdays and Thursdays at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And each week we just talk about a different aspect of health. In today's episode, we're focusing on mushrooms and related topics of energy, vitality, and cognitive performance. We're going to cover some really fascinating topics of mental acuity, nootropics, and adaptogens, and the mechanisms of energy production in our body. And we're going to explain basically where all the excitement comes from around mushrooms and introduce you to a really powerful mushroom supplement. So I'll be giving you that information as well. So stay tuned. Plus, we're going to pepper you with mushroom jokes. So if you have any sense of humor, gonna have a fun time. All right, well, my name is Deanne and I'm your host today, and I'm here with our special guest, Dr. Jacquie Leone. She's a naturopathic medical doctor, board certified holistic nutritionist, and psychology enthusiast. So welcome, Dr. Jacquie. Thanks for joining us on our episode called Why Mushrooms. So before you introduce yourself, let's see if you can get my first joke. Okay, we have a couple here. We'll start with this one. Why is it impossible to have a conversation with a female mushroom?
A female mushroom? Huh. No idea.
Because she talk you too much.
Like my talking to mushroom.
It's so me. I have to tell my husband that one. That's a good one. Okay, and then the other one is, why do mushroom children behave so well?
Oh man, I feel like it's like, if I searched for it, I might be able to find it, but I give up. Why?
Because they don't want to get in truffle.
That's a good one. I gotta use those.
Those are mine too. I'll try to get more throughout the show, but those are good ones, right?
Yes. I love puns.
All right. The puns, the mushroom puns. It's gonna happen. All right, well, let me have you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your journey into naturopathic medicine.
Yes, of course. So my name's Dr. Jacquie. I am a naturopathic doctor, holistic nutritionist, and my undergrad is in psychology. So I have a minor in philosophy as well. So I've always been very curious and interested about the mind, how it works, why it works the way it works, which led me into studying the brain. And then in philosophy, there is a big school of thought differentiating, is the brain the mind? Is the mind the machine within the brain? Is the brain the hardware and the mind is the software? What's the relationship there? How can we make it function better and more efficiently, productively? So I have, since probably late teens, early 20s, been super fascinated by all of that. And it's just continued to get more and more as I learn more about neuroanatomy, psychology, neurology, all the cool ologies associated to how the brain and mind work. So it, to me, because the brain really does tell the rest of the body what to do and how to do it, how often, how, intense, how subtle. I just really am fascinated by the machine that runs us. So yeah, I'm excited to get into today and talk about cognition, brain, mind, and all that good stuff.
Awesome. All right. Well, how does our body produce energy, and what biological processes make us feel vibrant, sharp, and energetic?
That is a really good question. So the first part of the question, how do we produce energy? So basically we have 3 macronutrients. We're all probably familiar with them. Every nutrition label has them. We've heard buzzes, in marketing and in the world of food, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So carbohydrates and fats are primary energy sources. And then proteins are building blocks. They make stuff. And they can, in extreme cases, be broken down and converted into energy as well. But essentially, the three macronutrients go through a bunch of cool different biochemical processes. And at the end, they're turned into ATP. ATP being energy. It's kind of like gas to a car. It's what makes us go. So the connection to producing energy, not just for our muscles to function, our eyes to see, our ears to hear, our heart to beat, but to translate that into how we feel vibrant, how we feel energized, how we feel sharp mentally. The brain utilizes about 20 to 25% of the energy we create every single day. So a quarter to a fifth, right, is all in the brain. Not even the spine, the nervous system in general, but just the brain alone. And what's happening there is we have very specific neurochemicals. They're known as neurotransmitters. And they're just chemical messengers, essentially telling us how to interpret things, when things feel good, when things feel bad, when to move towards something, when to move away from something. And they're all heavily required for the brain to produce and exchange them. ATP is necessary, right? And so when we're making energy from the food that we're eating, a vast majority, comparative to any other system in the body at least, is being utilized by the brain just to release these cool substances. So for instance, dopamine we've talked about, it's the reward center. It makes us feel pleasure, motivation, inspiration, excitement. When we get an A on a paper, when we, we're able to do that physical thing, jump or run or tie our shoes, and we get that reward feedback. And then we have serotonin, which helps us with stabilizing our mood and our appetite and our energy requirements. So those are just two examples. There are a ton other neurotransmitters and hormones that require high levels of energy in the brain. But those are the types of things, those chemicals, we need a lot of high quality energy to make them so that we feel sharp, we feel energized, we feel motivated to wake up and make things happen for ourselves in our day-to-day life. So they're inherently linked. Energy to being able to cognition, really, which to me is the umbrella for memory, being able to recall things. If you've ever been like, oh, what was the name of that thing again, versus being really sharp and able to retrieve quickly that recall. That's kind of the difference in is our brain getting enough energy to produce these substances to help us with things like that in our day-to-day lives.
Okay, awesome. Well, before we dive deeper, I want to introduce everyone to an amazing supplement from Middle World Herbs. This is the mushrooms. And I also want you guys to see the capsules. So this is what the capsule looks like. And this formula includes 5 different mushrooms. So there's lion's mane, there's chaga, miyatake, shiitake, and reishi. So it's a very earthy, like light brown color, and has these little small, like super small whitish particles in there. It's kind of hard to see on camera, but that's like all of those ingredients together. So they are veggie capsules, 60 per bottle, and right now they are $23, but you're going to get an extra 20% off during this live. So click on that banner ad to take advantage of that great deal. So let's just dive right on in. For how long have people been using mushrooms for medicinal properties, and how did they use them?
This is mind-boggling to me when I learned about it. So in naturopathic medicine, we also learn what's called TCM, or traditional Chinese medicine, the use of herbs, acupuncture, meridians, qi as energy in the body. We learn all of that philosophy and how to utilize it. And when we were in school, I remember mushrooms and herbs, just plants in general, and fungi and things like that, were utilized anywhere from 5,000 to 7,000 years ago. There's actually the first written kind of medicinary, if you will, or list of plants and fungi utilized, as well as animal parts and things like that, bones for collagen, but was in China. And it was about 7,000 years ago. And the 29th century BC, I think it was, which is a very long time ago. And they've been using them traditionally to treat a lot of different things. The earliest records reflect fighting infection, people who were ill, and inflammation illnesses or diseases. as well as wound healing. So anytime somebody got an injury, or they were in battle, or childbirth, or anything like that, where the skin was torn, bruised, lacerated, along with basic minor surgery, herbs and mushrooms, specifically the maitake, the reishi, they were definitely used thousands and thousands of years ago. And then if we kind of fast forward into modern medicine, Hippocrates, who is known as kind of the father of modern medicine, and he was the first one to say, use food as thy medicine. That was, 450, 500 BC is when he was writing about utilizing those to cauterize wounds for inflammatory illnesses, headaches, vision issues, again, just cold, flu, and disease states. So they've been used for a very, very long time. Esoterically is what it's called, pre-science, pre-technology, right? So lots of trial and error to learn how to specifically use them. And they've pinpointed exactly how much, what kind, what they're great for. It's pretty amazing stuff that they were able to do that before science and modern technology.
That is amazing. Okay, so what is science telling us nowadays about mushrooms, and were our ancestors on that right track?
Oh yeah, totally. So science has kind of fast tracked it because now we have technology and we have innovative kind of processes, the scientific method to be able to study things. The double-blind placebo, for example, give this group mushrooms and give this group placebo and measure certain things and take certain tests. And by and large, across the board, mushrooms always have a positive biochemical response, depending on what the target goal is. But there's not even enough time in the session to list all of the attributes that mushrooms have, from being antimicrobial, immune stimulants, cholesterol lowering agents, blood sugar balancers, nootropics, which we'll talk about, which help the brain function better, adaptogens, which help us respond to stress better, our adrenal glands, and all of that. So, the sky's the limit when it comes to mushrooms. They really do have a lot of superpowers. It's pretty amazing. And our ancestors were right on.
Nice. And vitamin D, right? They're linked to that.
Oh yeah, they have B vitamins. They are, high in vitamin D, which is one of the only natural foods, because usually as humans, we're innate with getting vitamin D synthesized through our skin, right, from sunlight. So vitamin D taken in internally from foods is usually fortified foods, where the vitamin D is added after the process or the factory process packaging. And mushrooms are a great natural source of vitamin D. So yeah, that's a great point.
Okay, well, you had mentioned that they are nootropics and adaptogens. So you mentioned that. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, of course. So nootropics, they basically just help the brain function better. So it's different compounds from different plants and mushrooms, which are fungi, and it's essentially making the brain work better. So and it's a couple different ways to be able to do it, but mushrooms are so cool for the brain, at least, because they pass what's called the blood-brain barrier. And we have this barrier in our brain because it's such an important powerhouse to run the rest of the body that it's very protective of itself. So certain medications, certain substances, certain hormones, certain things can't pass that barrier, right? The brain is on high alert to keep the bad stuff out and ideally only let certain things in. And mushrooms pass that test, and they do get through to the blood-brain barrier, to take action in the brain. So they can increase oxygen to the brain, blood flow to the brain. They can upregulate important substances that help the brain work, like acetylcholine, for example, which helps take short-term memory and turn it into long-term memory when we're learning. It helps us rebound quickly when we get brain fog or brain fatigue. And so that's the nootropic. I think of the N as neurological. That's kind of how I connect the two. And then adaptogens starts with an A, and so does adrenal gland, right? And so that's the relationship I think of there, because it helps the adrenal glands, which are responsible for producing like stress hormones, like cortisol and stuff that help us, respond to stressful states. Adaptogens help us adapt to those stressful states better. We have a faster rebound. We're able to process those hormones and those catecholamines and substances that are released in high levels when we're stressed. Our body can process them better. Our adrenal glands can function more productively and efficiently. And so mushrooms just check all the boxes. They, and remember, our stress responses starts in our hypothalamus, our pituitary, and then our adrenals. So it's cool that mushrooms cross the blood-brain barrier because they're helping with every single step of that process, and cognition on top of that. Study aids, making sure our recall is faster, long-term memory is better, more crystal clear. It's pretty impressive. And all mushrooms are, or I would say the vast majority of mushrooms are both. So when we're talking about reishi, chaga, cordyceps, lion's mane, shiitake, turkey tail, maitake, oyster, all of those are going to be both nootropic and adaptogen.
Okay, awesome, awesome. So, let's see. Lori just asked, do we have anything sea moss related? I don't believe any of our supplements at this time have anything sea moss related. So, no, but today we're focusing mostly on mushrooms. So what are some of the key benefits of taking the mushroom supplement, or a mushroom supplement, even if it's not this one?
So the benefit is that you can get a more concentrated dose than if you were to eat it. I mean, I think eating mushrooms is very important. Again, food is thy medicine is one of the biggest proponents of naturopathic medicine and my philosophy. But supplements it's built right in the name. It's to supplement a healthy diet, right? It's not to replace things that we're lacking from diet. So when we're taking supplements, they're going to pack a greater punch usually because they're more concentrated. So instead of eating mushrooms and changing your diet, not noticing changes for a few months, you'll notice, like usually right away within that same day or week, changes to things like increased energy, improve muscle recovery, your immune system and support will be stronger, heart health, right? Your heart contractility, your blood pressure, anti-inflammatory actions, antioxidant actions, so aging stuff, how the mind works, you're more calm, you're cool, collected, you're not as frazzled or anxious or depressed. Because again, everything that is connecting the mind to the body is working better. And that's really the benefit of mushroom supplements and just eating mushrooms in the diet in general as well.
Awesome. All right. Well, just for fun, let's do our fun round of true or false. So everyone, if you're joining us, just put in the chat what you think the answers are, and then Dr. Jacquie will of course tell us, and I always try to guess too. All right, so question number 1, some mushrooms are plants, true or false? I feel like we've done this one before and I don't even remember. Some are plants. I think there's one that is true.
So it's gonna be false. Yeah. So all mushrooms are in the kingdom known as fungi. They're in the produce section with other plants. So it makes sense. But no, fungi are super different. So plants get energy from the sun, photosynthesis. Animals get energy from food, we digest. Fungi are super unique because their root system, actually, it's called mycelium, release enzymes into the local area and then break down stuff that's floating around the roots. Dead animals, bugs, soil, nitrogen and carbon in the soil from trees and foliage. And then those enzymes seep out, digest it, and then go through the roots and into the fruiting body known as kind of the cap and the stalk. So it's super unique in the way that it works, and that's why it's classified differently.
Okay, so the next question, maybe this is the one I was thinking with the plants. Chaga mushroom is mainly found on birch trees, true or false? I believe that this one was true, or if it wasn't chaga, it was another. Okay, yeah,
good memory.
That's why I think.
Yeah. So chaga is mostly on the birch tree, but it can aspen, alder, elm trees. It's been grown on, but yeah, it prefers the birch tree for sure. And it actually looks almost like something is diseased because it's kind of this black, charcoaly, burnt looking, but it's a mushroom. So it's really kind of amazing if you're ever walking through the Midwest, especially Minnesota, and you see a bunch of birch trees covered in what looks like little burnt blotches. Those are chaga mushrooms, and that is nature's gold. So be aware.
That's so cool. All right, the next one is a joke. So what does a mushroom do for fun? And put the answer in the chat if you have any ideas. And you already read these, Dr. Jacquie, so you know the answer, and I'm staring at the answer. So we should have had the answer not shown to you. All right, does anyone know what a mushroom does for fun? Anyone? Okay, the answer is they play sports.
Get it?
Sports, yes. Okay. All right, number 3. Mushrooms are incredibly low in calories. True or false? I'm going true. They're very low in calories.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So mushrooms, by weight, are significantly low calorie, high protein, high fiber. Again, now this is because it's a fungi, it's not going to have 40 grams of protein or anything, but for its size and for its weight, about a cup is only 15 to 30 calories, with most of that being like 3 to 4 grams of protein. A few carbs, and about half the carbs in every mushroom are fiber, which is fantastic. You know, we definitely don't get enough fiber in our diet. So yeah, it's very low calorie.
Awesome. All right, next one. Joke again. People are liking these. What does a fast mushroom car say? Think about it. Fast mushroom car say. All right, do you want to answer it? Should I? I can answer it. It says, shroom, shroom.
I love the inflection too. You really sold the punchline. Oh, that's so great.
So cute. Hey, Lori B got it. All right. Number 4. Some mushrooms grow on manure. True or false? Ooh, I'm gonna have to say true. It's gross, but true.
Absolutely. Yeah. So compost, manure, horse manure, cow manure, there are certain mushrooms that just really, really love the nitrogen rich aspects of manure. Not all mushrooms, but some mushrooms. Specifically, people know them as magic mushrooms, but psilocybum mushrooms grow in cow dung. Preferent, their preference is to grow there. So take it for what it's worth. But it's just, the nutrition in any compost or manure based compost or fertilizer is going to help mushrooms grow a little bit faster.
Very good. Okay, I'm doing a different joke for the next one because you won't know it. All right. What did the mushroom wife say to her mushroom husband at their wedding?
Blah, blah, blah. I got nothing.
Okay. I love you so much, groom.
These are so punny.
They're so funny. They're so great. All right. I'll get more going. All right. I found a good website for them. These are not original by me by any chance. Okay. Fungi allow to communicate with each other. True or false?
What do you think?
Oh gosh, I forgot that I have to answer it. Okay. Stuck on my joke. Fungi allow trees. Okay, I know. It's like still thinking about it. Allow trees to communicate with each other. Sure, true. I'll go true.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. So trees communicate their needs to each other through mycelium, or the roots associated to fungi. Whether or not that's mushroom producing fungi, like the fruiting bodies above the earth, it depends on the tree system, on the forest ground, on all those things. But yes, absolutely, mycelium have been proven to communicate with almost all living things, particularly trees. And trees, one tree that has, let's say, a pest a mile away, a few acres away, can signal to the mycelium, hey, we have a pest, we have an infection, I don't want to spread it, let everybody else in the group know. And the mycelium will turn on tree defenses, or communicate to the trees, hey, we need our defenses to be high. So trees will produce natural alkaloids, or other plant chemicals, in order to create a defense against their natural pest, which I think is pretty amazing. Nature has such an innate intelligence to it. It's way beyond me.
That is wild. That's so cool. All right,
so cool.
You have the next. So cool.
Oh man. Okay. I did. I'm guilty as charged. Okay. Let's see if I can deliver it. I did not do a great job. Why was the mushroom the life of the party? People will probably get this one, but it's because he's such a fun guy. Get it? I thought that was good. I thought that was good.
That was a classic. That was such a classic.
It is.
No, that
It
was
is a classic.
all right. Let's do number 6. The largest living thing on Earth is a fungus. True or false? Ooh, largest living thing on Earth. I'm gonna go true.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So things are classified by largest differently. So heaviest, thickest, largest animal, largest sea creature, largest land animal. But when we're talking about the absolute largest in scope and in size, for anything on planet Earth, it is 100% a fungi colony. It is about 2,500 acres big. So that's almost 4 square miles, just to give you an idea. And that's one singular unit. That's not a bunch of, individuals collected. It is one large. About, I think like 100 trees died once, and ecologists were like, what the heck is happening? How are all these trees dying? It's because the mycelium, or the root system of the fungus underneath the earth, was signaling the death because they were infected. And then that's how, they found that it was the largest living thing on Earth, which I think is fantastic.
Wow.
Again, mind-boggling.
Like mushrooms are like staying quiet and then one day gonna take over the world or something. It's so crazy.
I'm serious. I feel like we're all, if you've eaten a mushroom ever in your life ever, I feel like you're part of the mycelium of the earth now. Like, hands down.
Good.
Like, you're like, yeah, it's in you, it's in earth, it's like we're one and the same now. Yeah, it's really
Good.
Fascinating.
I popped one, so I'm one in the same with the earth. All right. Fungi are genetically closer to humans than plants. True or false? Okay, these are just really cool facts. I'm gonna go true.
Yep, you're absolutely right. So
wow.
there's about a 9 million year difference. So the 3 plant, animal, fungi in terms of kingdom, evolutionarily speaking, right? Not to disregard creationism if that's what you believe in, but in terms of science and evolution and what we've studied, the 3 were kind of neck and neck. About 1.5 billion years ago. And then plants kind of broke off onto their own. And so fungi and humans kept up for about 9 million years, sharing the same genetics. And then at that 9 million year mark, they all separated into 3 separate kingdoms, genetically speaking. And part of that separation is how we utilize energy. Again, plants are from the sun. Fungi are the way that, the enzymes release from the mycelium to break things down and absorb passively. And then animals have a digestive tract. So those are the biggest differences in why we evolved separately. But yeah, we share way more genes with mushrooms than we do with plants.
So interesting. All right, number 8. Mushrooms can stay dormant for years. True or false? Dormant for years. I'm going to have to say true.
Yeah, you read the context clues in that one, I think. But yeah, mycelium, the roots. So the root system, you could be walking on mycelium or the root system of mushrooms for decades and nothing happened. And then for whatever reason, the ground becomes hospitable, fertilizers put down. If it's an arid, dry climate, it starts to rain. If it's a really cold climate, it starts to warm up. Whatever happens, the geographic and climate, conditions become perfect and then trigger the mycelium to release the fruiting bodies, which is the stalk and then the little cap. And the higher the stalk and the cap grow, the reason they grow so high and open is because those little gills underneath make the spores, and the spores are what essentially grow more mushrooms, create more mycelium. So that's how they reproduce. So they just stay dormant, and then when everything is perfect and ready, the stalk, the cap, almost overnight, and then the release of spores. That's why mushrooms also like trees, right? Because they can grow outward of the trees, and again, their spores can go further, they can procreate more faster. So yeah, absolutely, for decades and decades, they can lay dormant. That's why I'm convinced that there's bigger than this 4 square mile fungus patch in the world. We just haven't measured it because it's laying dormant.
Totally. I told you they're going to take over the world. Okay, well, you mentioned mushrooms are enjoying trees while they also enjoy eating something around a campfire. What is it? Does anyone know? What does a mushroom enjoy eating around a campfire? This one's kind of easy if you think about it. So throw it in the comments. And the answer is spores.
Oh man, that requires spores. Some
Cow
s'mores.
manure. No, they're not eating cow manure. They're growing from that. They're having their little graham cracker marshmallows with spores in it. Oh man. All right.
We gotta tell more jokes. These are great.
We gotta do jokes. Pretty much, yeah. We need to do this with every show. We're gonna be like the berberine jokes.
Yeah.
All right. We can do it. We can make it happen. All right, number 9. This one's so interesting. Lightning boosts mushroom growth. True or false? That, I never put thought into that, but I'm going to go true.
Yep, you are correct. So there's an old wives' tale in Japanese culture that grow mushrooms by and large for medicinal reasons that said, you know, if we synthetically create different barbs and different conduits to attract lightning during storms, it will help the mushroom patches. And for a long time, science was kind of like, I guess that's an old wives' tale. But the more that we studied it, or science studied it, and they looked into it, they found that it was absolutely true. For whatever reason, lightning strikes can almost double mushroom crop yield. Pardon me. And they keep, you know, fungi just really respond to electricity for whatever reason. So it is absolutely true. It's a cool fact.
They're like alien life forms.
I know.
It's fascinating. All right, number 10. This is our last one. Fruiting bodies of mushrooms are more nutrient rich than mycelium. True or false? Ooh, I don't know. Well,
So
we
what do
know
you
that
think?
the fruiting body, what you want, are. I'm gonna go true.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the mycelium are great, but they're more for the digestive process and the signaling and all that good stuff. When it comes to the actual beta glucans, which are kind of the magic power of the plant, you know how we talk about berberines and different plants, and you know the superpower of the thing, the constituent of mushrooms, by and large, are going to be their polysaccharides and their beta glucans, and they're just in significantly higher concentrations in the actual fruiting body, the stalk and the cap, than compared to the root system.
Okay, awesome. Well, that was our true or false game. Thank you guys for playing. If you enjoyed any of our jokes or any of the fun facts, hit the follow button. Tell us you liked it. Yay. Meanwhile, I also want to tell you guys a really quick story about the charms that we have on our bottles. So these are called whispers, and this one says every day is a new beginning. Each whisper is going to be something different, and they come on each bottle. They're just like a positive mantra or message, and they came as an inspiration when the founder went on a trip to Bergamo, Turkey, and she went to the Asclepian Temple. And when she was there, there's this tunnel that you can visit in the ruins, and there's like where the light is coming in. The ancient healers would be there whispering to patients as they slowly walked the tunnel and just telling them positive things and mantras and words of inspiration. And they were just like far ahead of their time, knowing that there's emotional healing and physical healing. So that is where the whisper came from. She basically thought to herself, okay, I'm in the supplement space. There's so much focus on physical. Let's talk about some emotional healing too. So I love that you get the little positive message. And I think that's just a super cool thing. Plus you can keep the little charms as well. So one thing we always talk about, Dr. Jacquie, is just how our feelings of worry, anger, grief, stress, anxiety can trigger physical processes in our body. And since we're talking about vitality today, is there a connection between our emotions and being able to stay physically strong, active, and energetic?
Yes, definitely. Like I was saying before, the brain really runs the show. So if the brain's fatigued, if it's energy deprived, you know, our vitality is going to be affected. How we perceive the world, the same exact issue can happen to us. And if we were well fed, and come on, we've all been hangry, let's be honest. we would respond differently emotionally or mentally, problem solving and things, if we have slept well, if we're well fed, if we're well hydrated, versus not, right? And so our mental emotional state and perception of our life is very much colored by what's happening biochemically in our brain, and vice versa. So our brain functions better when we are more active, when we are more vital, when we are challenging our brain to learn and grow and things like that. So, you know, if you've ever heard of like, let's move from survival mode into thrive mode, that's really the difference. Is we have two sections of our brain primarily. I mean, we have a ton, but just to simplify, we have our limbic brain, which is kind of like our animal brain. It's more it's just very focused on procreation, safety, hunger, sleep, right? All these basic animal primal instincts. And for lack of a better visual, that's the core of the brain. And then we have our cortex wrapped over it. And this is where personality lives. This is where we can want to throw a tantrum in the grocery store when they don't have the item we're there for and we made a special trip for, but we don't. We have self-control, right? The limbic brain wants to throw the tantrum, but the cortex is the thing that keeps us cool, calm, collected, budgets our time, budgets our money, problem solves, can anticipate consequences, can innovate ideas, right? And so what happens when we're in survival mode is we're trapped in this limbic brain, which affects our vitality, our ability to remember things long term, our ability to problem solve. So when we can move from the limbic brain into the cortical brain or the frontal cortex, we have forethought. We can calm ourselves. We have self-regulation and self-coping, and we can move into what's known as like the thrive mode of existing. So yes, by and large, physical, mental, emotional, they're all, woven into each other for sure and interdependent on each other.
Totally. Yes. I feel like we've all been there. We go to the store out of our way and they don't have it, and you're just like,
yes, one thing. Oh, guilty as charged.
Yeah. And then you're like, okay, fine, I'll just buy these other things I did not come here for.
Yep.
All right. So let's spend a few moments to really understand some of the properties of this amazing formula. So first and foremost, we have lion's mane in here. So what are some of the key ingredients, key properties? I shouldn't say ingredients. We know what lion's mane is, but what are some of the key properties of that mushroom?
So the really important thing about lion's mane, first of all, it's absolutely beautiful when you see it in nature. It's got these beautiful threads that grow out of it like hair, and it's very bushy. So that's how it gets its name. But essentially, lion's mane is very neuroprotective. And so what it's going to do is protect the brain against things like dementia, symptoms related to anxiety and depression. It's going to really help repair nerve damage happening in the brain. So the nerves in the brain, or the neurons in the brain, function like a big game of telephone. So one sends a message to another, sends a message to another, sends a message to another. So, your brain only functions as good as its weakest link, let's say. So if one of the neurons is damaged or not working well, it's not going to send the message correctly to the next neuron. And so we have like pathway issues. And lion's mane is really fantastic because it addresses that specifically. So it can help with inflammation of the neurons, oxidative stress of the neurons. So it just makes them work more efficiently and communicate better. So your game of telephone is faster, more efficient, clearer, and more consistent.
All right. Well, let's move on to chaga. So what is there to know about the chaga mushroom?
So chaga, and remember, chaga is what grows on those elms and it looks burnt. So to me, I don't know, chaga, when I think of it, I know this sounds kind of weird, but because it almost looks like a tumor in nature because it's black and charred, the anchor I have in my brain is that it's actually anti-tumor. It's anti-cancer effects, which is funny because it doesn't really look, it looks the opposite, like it would cause that, but it addresses that, which I think is absolutely fantastic and pretty powerful. So the nutrition that it has, it's very, very high in nutrients, like you mentioned before, vitamin D, B vitamins, stimulates the immune system, antioxidant effects, helps with cholesterol, blood sugar, and again, anti-tumor effects in the body, anti-cancer, fights carcinogens, which we've talked about that fancy word, but carcinogen is anything that's been known to cause cancer. So it directly affects those, and helps combat the damage that those do. So chaga is pretty incredible in that sense.
Okay, here's a joke. I just came up with this. So,
Okay.
what is the chaga's favorite mode of transportation?
Man, I want to say some sort of something that has elm in it. I don't know.
The chaga chaga choo choo.
Oh. How did I not know? That
I don't know.
so obviously, of course, it's a chugga chugga choo choo. Chaga chaga
Chaga chaga
choo
choo choo. It's probably a real joke, but that just came to me. So if that's not a real joke, we can trademark that one. All right. Reishi, what are some of the benefits of reishi?
Okay, so reishi is super unique. For those of you who suffer anxiety, reishi is known as nature's Xanax. It's very, very calming. It's very relaxing. It really just soothes any anxiety, that we might have by helping, again, balance those neurochemicals or those brain substances that we make. It helps with nerve growth as well. When we look at neurons under scopes and their reishi has been applied, it's called arborization, which we've kind of mentioned before, but it's new branching, right? So let's say we have a neuron, the head of the neuron has dendrites and axon tail, and then these little axons here, right? Well, let's say that the dendrite only has 3 little guys to pick up the signal, send it through, and then there's another dendrite here. Well, what happens when we're taking reishi is these new branches are being formed consistently in the neurons. And the more dendritic arms we have, the better and more efficient we are at picking up the information and signaling it to the next neuron. Again, the game of telephone just becomes more productive, more efficient, more clear and concise. So, reishi is one of the most powerful nootropics, technically speaking, because of arborization. But on the other hand, it also is adaptogenic. So it helps the adrenal glands function by processing cortisol, or the stress hormone, more efficiently, which is really cool.
Okay, that's awesome. All right, well, let's move on to maitake mushrooms. What are the superpowers of these?
So maitake is also a tumor fighter. A couple of mushrooms have that extra superpower, if you will, outside of being nootropic and adaptogenic, but it stimulates the immune system and helps the body produce certain cells, like tumor necrosing factor. It's known as TNF, but it turns on those substances that seek out tumor cells, cancer cells, and really helps lower that, basically just address the damage, right? That's happening. Because we talked about cancer cells, they basically just don't follow the cell process of, being created, do your job, and then die and be excreted. They over multiply. And so one of the superpowers of maitake is it directly addresses that process and halts those cells from replicating like that. And again, these all help so many things, because if they're helping the brain in the stress response, think about what happens when we're stressed, everyone. Our heart races, our blood pressure goes up, all that stuff. So if these are going to help with the stress response, they're most likely also going to help with the cardiovascular system, making sure our blood pressure is normalized, making sure our pulse rate is normalized. So maitake is really cardioprotective as well and helps the cardiovascular system too.
Okay, awesome. Well, we have, last but not least, the shiitake. So how can these support our health?
So shiitake is probably, based on research, at least, it is the most researched, I will say that. I mean, every mushroom has its own superpower, but by and large, we keep seeing shiitake as coming out as a lead mushroom, if you will. And again, it might be because it's just the most studied one, the longest studied one, I'm not really sure. But by and large, it just keeps coming up as highest in polysaccharides, highest in beta glucans. So the immune system helps with white blood cell production. So it's going to help fight microbes, bacteria, viruses, yeast, overgrowth of bad pathogens, anti-inflammatory effects. So inflammatory illnesses, joint pain, headaches, brain fog, all that stuff. Again, crosses the blood-brain barrier, helps the adrenal glands, helps maintain blood sugar if you're diabetic. If you're on a statin or have high blood pressure, it's going to help soothe the blood pressure and help the cardiovascular system. So shiitake across the board just really does check a lot of boxes. And again, they're all unique and have their own superpowers, and they're all very powerful. But shiitake is probably, again, just the most studied and one of the most powerful when it comes to all of its effects on the body. It really does check so many boxes. They all do. It's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm super sold on it for sure. But lastly, let's talk about white cap mushrooms, which are commonly used for cooking. Is there any benefit to eating those? Do those make us healthier?
Yeah, so the tiny little white mushrooms that we buy in the grocery store, the people know them as button mushrooms, and I think sometimes people think it's kind of a throwaway food, meaning, oh, it doesn't have as many health benefits, and I'd rather focus on portobellas or shiitake or maitake or buy the oyster mushrooms or something like that, which those are fantastic too. But white button mushrooms are highly oxidative. They address oxidative stress very, very well. And so inflammation, which we know is a consequence of oxidative stress, right? If it's going to address oxidative stress, it's going to be an anti-inflammatory as well. So both of those things on the cardiovascular system, button mushrooms are great to protect the heart from heart disease. There are other compounds, again, those beta glucans that we mentioned, to help fight, stimulate the immune system to fight bacteria and viruses. So if, you're at the grocery store and you're like, it's not worth the $2 or $3. It definitely is, in my opinion, because food as thy medicine is so powerful. So the supplement's great, but also get them in your diet where you can. Your body will thank you.
Awesome. All right. Well, our time is almost up, but if you guys are just jumping on, I want to give you guys a little recap, a little mushroom recap. Our theme today is mushrooms, and we're talking about related topics as well of energy and vitality and everything just connected to it. So that can include cognitive health, immune health, cardiovascular health, digestive health, and we've been highlighting the Middle World Herbs mushrooms formula here. This has 3 powerful adaptogens in it. There's lion's mane, chaga, and reishi for supporting cellular health, metabolism, and protecting neurons from damage, plus multiple other benefits supporting our overall health. And since we're talking about mushrooms, and mainly mushrooms grow symbiotically with trees, I want to share another amazing thing about Middle World Herbs. And guess what? We plant a tree with every single supplement purchased. So every time you buy a supplement, you are planting a tree. And we partnered with One Tree Planted to join them. There's the right video. To join them on the global reforestation mission. So by buying Middle World supplements, you're not only helping your own body, but you're helping the earth and the forest. So one supplement purchased is one tree planted. All right, Dr. Jacquie, as we get ready to wrap up, if you could just leave everyone with the top 3 most important things about living full, energetic, vibrant, healthy lives, what would those be?
I just want to give us a personal high five at actually getting through everything and in time.
I know. Look at us.
We usually run so late because I just get so in my little nerd vacuum of wanting to over explain. Oh man, I'm so proud of us today. And we had time for cool jokes.
I know.
Makes me super happy.
Maybe I'll get extra ones.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you have any locked and loaded, let's do it. We have a couple.
Oh, I got a whole website up.
Oh man, that's great. Okay, so back to the question. Top three important things about living full, energetic, vibrant, healthy life. Oh man. So, I mean, that's such a vague question because it's so broad, really, when you think about it. But I think first and foremost, the biggest thing I've noticed with patients and clients is people not really understanding how their own body works, right? They're giving their power over to medical professionals and kind of blindly listening to what they say. And it's your body, guys. It's science knows that everybody has 206 bones and certain muscles, and some people born without them. And, so my point is we know the basics in a textbook on paper, but how they are collected and function in you is super unique. I was just talking to my brother about this. He got the cognition supplement and noticed a really big benefit pretty instantly. And he's like, yeah, I just respond really, really well to supplements. And I'm fine with processing medications. And, you know, I wrote back just jokingly, like, that's funny because we're sister and brother, but my biology is vastly different. If there is a side effect on a medication or a product, most of the time I will get it. And for a long time, I was like, oh, my body's a problem. I'm broken. There's something wrong with me. But eventually, I just learned to accept that I have a highly sensitive biology. My biochemistry is really sensitive to stuff, and a little goes a long way for me. So, my point in sharing that is just to let you know that your biodiversity matters. And so, if you're going to doctors over and over again, you're having chronic illness problems, and it's preventing you from living the most vital, energized life you can because you just feel like you keep hitting, you know, a dead end, or nobody's listening to you. You know, chances are you can take your health back into your own hands, right? You can learn about your own biology, talk to a naturopath, talk to a nutritionist, talk to a biologist, a biochemist, somebody who is going to take the time to help educate you on exactly what's happening in your body. Because if you know the processes and how the machine works, then you can pinpoint where things are going wrong and how you can correct them. Whether that's food, supplements, lifestyle stuff, taking stuff away, adding more stuff in, just accepting that your biology is your biology and stop forcing it to have expectations of somebody else's biology. Do not get stuck in the compare despair where you get trapped in comparing yourself to someone else. Why can't I get thin fast? Why can't I gain muscle? Why can't they drink water and their headaches went away and I drink so much water, you know, and I still get migraines and headaches all the time? That is the number one way to, again, the compare despair. It creates a lot of despair around health and makes us lack our motivation and, you know, kind of start hating and attacking our own bodies. So I know I kind of got off on a tangent here, but we had the time and I just wanted to really spread the word of empowerment, just taking your health back. You are the one living in your body. If you have not found doctors or a set of medical professionals that support you, listen to you, and hear you out and want to educate you on your own biodiversity, then keep looking because we exist and we're out there and we're here to help you, okay? You do not have to go through this alone. There are always options. You just might have to do a little bit further digging. So in terms of the three things, the number one thing is learn your body, know your body, accept your body, and work with your body. Do not force it to be something it's not, because you are built inherently, you know, imbibed with such these magical powers. Like I've said before, you are a walking universe. You're trillions and trillions of cells functioning in unison to make you who you are. And so if a couple of those cells are going wrong, it's okay. There are solutions out there. And you're not alone, even if you feel like you're alone. So anyhow, outside of that, out with the bad. Oh, somebody's driving by who wants to rev their. Anyway, good for them. They must really like their car. But anyway, out with the bad. I'm so sorry about that. Out with the bad stuff, in with the good stuff, and give yourself some credit. Be compassionate and kind to yourself, because guess what? You only have one life and one body, you know, and it's been through so much for you. It's done so much for you. So if you can take a pause and give it the love back that it's given you and the support back that it's given you, it will come back tenfold, I promise. Tangent done. Okay.
And end. Well, we are going to end, but I have two more jokes. So stick around because we're two really good ones to end with. If you've enjoyed our natural wellness show today, please hit the follow button right now. It's a great way for us to stay connected here on Amazon Live. And you can also follow at Middle World Herbs on social media. So we go live twice a week. We're live Wednesdays and Thursdays, 4 p.m. We're being really consistent with it now. We always have Dr. Jacquie on, so she answers all the questions. So come with some questions. Always a big thanks for her to join us. But before we wrap, okay, here's my last two.
All right.
I guarantee that these are the best. But what do you call a giant mushroom?
Oh, man. My mind went to a not good place. Go ahead. I want to hear it.
Okay, it's not going to be that. It's very PG. It's called hufungus. Instead of humongous.
Oh,
humongous.
Okay. I was like, Yeah, you know what I went to is the shiitake mushroom, like the shit ton or something. I was like,
Oh,
yeah, I was
but
like,
that
see, it's. I apologize to everyone out there. My mind's
okay.
just.
Super
I love that though.
funny.
Can you say that one more time?
What do you call a giant mushroom? Hufungus instead of
Humongous.
humongous.
I gotta remember that. Okay, I love it. I love it. Okay, now, humongous.
Last one.
My niece is gonna love it. All right, yeah, last one.
Last one is, how do mushrooms work from home?
I'm thinking Wi-Fi. I'm thinking. I have no idea.
They host meetings on Shroom instead of Zoom. Shroom. That was a little bit of a stretch, I'll admit it, but that's all I got, guys.
Shroom. No, I like it. I like it. They host meetings on Shroom. Oh, those are some good ones. You found a really great resource with these puns. Seriously, these are great.
Yeah. I'll send you the link after the page.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll just put it in the comments if anyone wants to laugh. Here's where I'm getting them from. Hold on one second. Let me pop it in so you guys can share these at the table with each other. Okay, that's the website. So it has all the mushroom jokes, and they're really good. Some of them aren't so good, but I pulled the good ones. All right, so thank you guys all for watching. There's more too. There's like 3 pages for it.
I love it.
We look forward to seeing you guys next time. So thank you, Dr. Jacquie, as always.
Thanks.
And we'll
Bye,
see you
everyone.
Bye.
Hear the whispers from within, balance to restore, ailings to relieve. Feel the nature keeping us, nature healing us. Flowers, leaves, and roots within. Hear the mind calming you, soothing you. Love and kindness inside out. Let the herbs from middle world heal. Welcome wellness, welcome wellness. It's revealed herbs, middle world herbs.